The day we buried our daughter, I was 2.5 years sober, and I immediately came home from the cemetery and drove downtown Franklin to just go to self-destruct. And I looked through the window, and there were 3 guys at the bar, and I was like, I'm gonna get a little buzz, and I'm gonna get in a fight.
Hey, we're Carlos and Amy from the K-Love Morning Show. Today joined by not one, but 2 amazing artists. We've got Bart Millard of Mercy Me, also Walker Hayes. And they've come together for a song we've been playing called Oh Death.
Oh Death. Positive, encouraging K-Love, here's Oh Death. Tell us how that happened, because when I first heard the name of the song, I was a little questioning things.
Man, well, my version of the story is we've been working on the latest album for about 1.5 years, and we got to a point to where we kind of had all the songs we were going to try to finish for the album. We were kind of done there. I get a text from Walker, and he's like, "Hey, are you still looking for songs?" And I think all caps was like, "No." He was like, "Tough, I'm going to send it anyway." And so I got this voice memo, this demo of him playing this song, and I think I said no for a couple of reasons. One, we had the songs, but you never know, like not Walker, but I've had friends in the country music world that they want to write a Christian song and it just may not hit the same, or, you just don't know. And This came in and I was like nervous, please be good, please be good. And it was great. I loved it so much that I had a meeting with the label not long after that where they were going to listen to all the songs we had. So I had all of our songs that were just in rough form. And then I had this voice memo, this demo with Walker just singing the chorus. And I go through all the songs of the label, I'm like, oh, that's great, that's great. And we get to that one, they're like, that's the next single. And I'm like, I'm not even on the demo. I'm not even singing it. And I was kind of excited and kind of feelings kind of hurt. And I was like, really? This is the one we agree on? And so we scrambled, within the next week, we got together and finished lyrics with a guy named Ethan Holson. And then we're tracking the song the next week. It was on the fast track to become the first single, which I was thrilled. I didn't know if they would. It's a weird song. It makes you want to dance, and it talks about a topic that's pretty heavy, and it just works.
Yeah, just try announcing it on positive, encouraging K-Love.
Exactly.
Here's the latest of Mercy Me. Oh, Death.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But to have you stepping into some Christian music, what's that transition been like?
When I became a believer, he was one of the first writes that my team set me up with. When I met Jesus, I think my team was like, what do we do, with this guy? Because this was pre anything working out for me. So me and Bart hit it off on our first write and collabed on a song.
We didn't write anything.
Right, we didn't.
First day we talked.
Actually, Bart just told me how good he thought I was. And he loved this song of mine called Craig. He really did. He kind of ministered to me, honestly. Yeah. We hung out, and I kind of went in being like, so what's this, I want to write about Jesus now. What's this Christian, stuff about? And honestly, was just trying to honor my team, give them something to work with creatively. Because at that point, I was just a songwriter, and he had heard a song called Craig, and I was like, yeah, it's a true story. So we did a version of Craig, but yeah, I mean, I only have a couple of friends in. No offense, Bart, but I didn't have that many options to send "Oh Death" to.
I was the second phone call.
No, you actually were the first one, and he was so nice. He said, he was like, "We're almost done with our album," that's what I say to people when I'm like, "I'm not gonna like your song," and but I sent it anyway. And I gotta tell you, I never expected. I listen to K-Love sometimes, and I was definitely not like, they'll put this on the radio. I was like, this will be the bonus track, if any. It's the weird, it's that weird janky song, that's all about the lyrics or whatever. But yeah, he was kind of listen. But yeah, Bart's been such a good influence, on me. That was probably 2 years after I became a believer where you and I wrote, or 1. It was fresh.
What's crazy is about when I first met Walker was he had a couple albums out. I think Craig was on a 2017 album or something like that. It was a while back. And I had heard it without ever knowing. In fact, when they told us I got a call saying, hey, this country guy wants to write with you. His name's Walker Hayes. And I was like, Okay, that's fine. And then it got delayed over and over, I think because of COVID. Like it kept getting rescheduled.
Yeah, right.
And so I knew the song Craig, didn't know that, I didn't put two, that Walker Hayes and Craig were the same. I didn't know it was the same guy. I just heard the song and I loved it. And so by the time we were coming out of COVID, we finally get together, and he thought that my team set up the right, and I thought, we didn't know who, we're like, who? Like we both were like, what are we here for? Like, who are we writing with? And we didn't know who set it up. And then we found out, we kind of figured out that he loves his team. But when he came to know Jesus, they're like, they didn't want to dump him. They love him too. And they're rooting for him and wanted him to win and just get with people that he wanted to be with.
Yeah.
And so we're in there, and the whole conversation that day was him talking about, man, I think I may hang it up because my country label doesn't know what to do with me because I can't stop talking about Jesus. And he was like, and I love them, and I don't like to see them positioned where like, how do we make this work? And he was like, I think I may be done soon. And once I figured out that Craig was a part of it, I was like, dude, okay, before you call it, just like and I literally said this, just either redo Craig, and like, this is such a great story, someone like Caleb might even play this. I said, just try before you quit. And he goes, well, would you do it with me? And I was like, oh man, I got a thing. I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. And this was like January, and then like a few months later, Fancy like blew up.
Yeah.
Huge blew up.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that summer after it's all going, you know, it's one thing to say when things are tough, you're like, and he's like, let's do Craig or whatever. But now when you have that success, I figured the route has changed all of a sudden. I remember texting him and going, hey dude, Fancy Like's like the biggest song in the world right now.
Yeah.
It couldn't happen to a better guy. I'm so proud or whatever. And his only response was, more people to hear Craig. And like he was still in for that. And it was like, what? And so we ended up doing it and got to, you know, sing it with you on whatever that
TV show.
Good Morning America, one of the concert series, stuff like that. I got to do stuff together. But it was just so cool that through all of this, like his love for Jesus hasn't changed. And, you know, and it's sometimes I forget that you're a fairly new Christian because, you know, it's just a part of you. And so it's been awesome. And then for Oh Death to come full circle and be part of this was like, it's so awesome.
We've talked a lot about the song Craig.
Yep.
For anyone who doesn't know the song, could you kind of give the backstory behind it?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I was going through a Macklemore phase, so I mean, it's basically. I could probably just recite the lyrics.
And we'll discuss Macklemore after Craig.
Yeah. We'll go. Yeah.
We'll start with Thrift Shop.
Let's do Thrift Shopping. But yeah, man, Craig's a true story. My best friend, I met him at a church called Redeeming Grace in Franklin. My wife kind of begged me to try this church out. Was not a believer. My wife always has been, and was getting kind of annoyed at hey, we got to try churches here and there, because we would always try one and then not continue. And Craig's wife, her name is Laura. She invited Craig to a new church, brand new church. They met at a building out in the middle of nowhere, and it was only like 30 people. They had kind of started a church from Knoxville, and I didn't know this at the time. And Lainey convinced me just to go with her and our kids. We had 5 at the time, and we didn't have any money. I was working at Costco, and I was alcoholic. I drank from 13 to 35, and this was probably, I'm 45 now, so this was probably 12 years ago maybe. So I rode shotgun with Lainey and the kids in the back to this church on a Saturday night, and I was hammered. And made a joke as we walked into this church, because it was in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And I remember saying, hey, we need to call somebody and tell them where we are before this cult kidnaps us. And even Lainey, she was like, that's pretty funny. You know, this is going to be weird.
She's like, oh, he might be right.
Yeah.
And they break out the snakes. We got it here.
Yeah, you never know, you know. And I was like, it could be bad. So, you know, and when we were way used to, I mean, anytime we walked into a public establishment, it was humorous, because it was just me and Lainey and you know, 5 kids everywhere, you know, and you walk in and everybody's like, you know, and people physically count, you know, you see their heads doing the thing, and so we walk in to this church. And sure enough, all 30 people just, turn around and this guy, Craig, just absolute beeline. If you meet, he's got the hugest eyes you've ever seen in your life. And he just beelines for me. And he shakes my hand and he's super awkward. I couldn't stand it. I mean, immediately on his way, I was like, there's this guy. There's always this greeter guy, And anyway, he finds me and he just continually, he's like, I am glad you're here. Man, I am so excited, and he's grabbing me and I went back to Laney and I was like, they got greeters, and and so over the next couple years, I mean, I didn't love this institute. Like, it's not like I enjoyed the serve or anything. I didn't like one thing I immediately began to see myself noticing is Craig and Laura's love for us. I had sadly zero affection for fellowshipping with them or hanging or any of the religious part, but I literally would leave his house and go, why do they love us? Like, I was like, something about to happen weird. Like, that nobody loves us this much.
What do they want from us?
Right.
Yeah.
It was like, what's happening here? What are we missing? And we were just in that phase of life where, my family was like, what are y'all doing? Every time you call, you're pregnant and you don't have any success in this industry.
Yeah.
My wife didn't have a job. We just, no one was like, let's follow these, let's go to that person's house, when they saw us. But Craig did, and they fed us. He would show up at all my shows at Puckett's and eat, with my family and hang out on date nights. And one night, he just shows up at my son's baseball game unannounced. And, I'm leaving the stands and he's smiling in the parking lot and he's standing by his own minivan. And Craig's not like the world wouldn't say this dude is wealthy, And he gets out of his van and he's like, man, I got the keys and the title to this thing. All you got to do is sign. And it's yours. And, I explained this to Bart when he was inquisitive about the song. I was embarrassed. I was mad. I'm not fun to help. I didn't grow up being taught, hey, ask for help and receive, and which I think that was maybe part of me not wanting a savior or a Lord, much less as being like, no, I'm good, and so anyway, it came down to almost, it kind of got pretty tense there in the parking lot, and my daughter Leela finally said, Dad, just accept the vehicle. And then as I drove home that night, for the first time in a really long time, I looked at my rear view and all of my kids had a seatbelt because we had been riding in a Honda, and every time a cop would pull up, I would say, cop, and they would dive down into the floorboard. And I'm telling you, I'll never forget. I mean, I can still see the rear view. And I didn't go home and read a Bible or pray about it or anything, but I just started writing that song, Craig, literally that night. Wow. Because I couldn't express, I wasn't used to desiring to express gratitude like that. And even when I would see him, I'd be like, dude, thank you for the car, but it just didn't feel enough, and neither did the song. But then there's a crazy story. So I wrote the song Craig, and I almost didn't send it to him because I was like, this is so weird. Like, I'm writing a song for a dude, and I'm like, I'm gonna freak him out. When he opens his email and he's like, Walker's written a song called Craig, and he has a wonderful story about where he was in life when he heard that song, which was wild because I didn't know, some things that he was going through at the time. But yeah, I mean, that song is definitely it's like the nucleus of my show. I mean, it's in the middle, and God just gave me like a layup. I would be the worst Sunday school teacher or preacher ever, but I can tell you the story of that song and how someone who I didn't believe Christ could live inside someone, which is pretty cool that God in His mercy redeemed me and invited me in with an actual human being who I know is not perfect, but I definitely was like, homeboy has something that's not of this reality inside him, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Total sense.
So when did it move from Craig, and then all of a sudden you realizing
Well,
I could have a personal relationship with
yeah,
Jesus?
I mean that's a lot. You know, that's a long. What truly just cripplingly humbled me was my wife and I lost our 7th child, Oakley, and she was a stillborn, and just my desire for meaning, purpose after that. The loneliness, I guess that I felt, it exposed, grief, for me personally, I've never seen myself that clear in the mirror. Like just to give you an example, the day we buried our daughter, I was 2.5 years sober, and I immediately came home from the cemetery and drove downtown Franklin to just go to self-destruct. I mean, I couldn't mentally or physically tolerate, whatever that feeling was. It was indescribable, and I had never felt anything like it, And I drove to a bar called 55 South. Have you ever been to 55 South?
No, I believe in Jesus.
They have great food.
I don't know these words you're talking about. No,
That's awesome. I thought you were Catholic. Okay. So I drove to this bar, and I looked through the window, and there were 3 guys at the bar, and I was like, I'm gonna get a little buzz, and I'm gonna just mess with those guys. I'm just gonna get in a fight with those guys. It makes 0 sense, but I just want a clean slate. I just want to start over, and just explode. And I opened that Honda, and my wallet wasn't in the door, and so I drove back home. And when I walked up to our steps, that we had a window to our house. We had like a shotgun house, and when I looked through the window, my wife sadly was just by herself on the day, she's buried her daughter. My kids are out on nowhere, and she's just in the dark, like kind of the sunset dark, just alone, and I could literally see, what I was about to do. I thought like, oh, I'm good. I'm a good dad. I'm a good. My kids love my wife, and I was like, no, I was about to heap onto my favorite people on earth more problems. That would last for a lifetime. And to this woman, that I've known since I was 17, I was just going to dump another project. She was going to have to pick me up from jail, the next day. And we were going to have to start the rehab process all over, and go back to square one. And so I went in, and we just had a wonderful conversation, and she found me an AA meeting. But I say all that as an example to say that was some sin in me that I just saw clearly, and thought, I need a savior. Like this isn't like I got this under control. I need redemption from myself. Yeah. So my testimony is definitely, it's like, Lord, save me from me, and not like, oh, the world's scary, or he's mean, or this hurts, or it's more like, help. Yeah. Help me die to me. And so yeah, but I eventually, one night on the road, I had those feelings, just like talking on the phone with Lainey, saying, I literally told Lainey one night, I said, can you name me one person as gross as me that actually changed? And she said, Paul. And I said, he doesn't count, he's in the manual. And anyway, that night actually, she sent me a book. I bought a book on Kindle, and it was called Secrets of an Unlikely Convert by a woman named Rosario Butterfield. And I read it cover to cover. And then the next morning, when the bus dropped me off, I snuck into Barnes & Noble with my hoodie on and bought a Bible and hid it in the bag because I didn't want to tell Lainey yet. I was still proud, still too proud to admit that I was that lost. And I just read it. I just read it cover to cover. And I realized that all those idiots were just like me, in there. And that's kind of when that happened. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And both of you have experienced deep loss, like obviously with your daughter and with your father, and recently your father-in-law as well.
Yeah, in fact, that's when he sent me the song, I just found out, this would have been like September, I can't remember the time frame, but I just found out that he had leukemia, and they said my father-in-law they think he had about a month to live, but we can't guarantee the next day. And so I'm packing up to head to Texas to be with him for most of that month when he sent me the song, and I don't know if he probably didn't know at the time of the timing of just like, I'm driving to Texas and I'm literally dancing and in tears, and it's a very confusing time because the song's upbeat and what it's talking about.
Yeah.
And it was like, from that moment on, it was like, it'll forever be attached to my father-in-law, Frank. And, but, I remember when we talked about it, he was like, because I was like, where'd this come from? Like, because it's just and part of what I love is that because, Walker didn't grow up in the church, he addresses things differently than our church language sometimes. And I don't know if you remember this, but he was like, man, I guess you were sitting in one of your little church, wherever you go to church, whatever. You're like, I was watching him lead worship and it wasn't great. And he was like, but instead
you can't say
No,
that.
it was so good.
My church will hear it.
He was visiting another church.
They're great.
Yeah, not that church. But he just said, he was like, instead of being critical, he's like telling himself, do something about it. Like, how would you change it? And he sent me his chorus going, man, if this was ever sung in a church I went to, I'd be doing backflips and with Oh Death. And I just, it's just, the timing could have been better on my end. And, and even my father-in-law getting to hear the song before he passed. And, but it's it was definitely a God intervention. Like,
it's wild to sit back on this side and like, I see like almost like, I'm not that guy, but like weird divine providence to like both y'all's lives. Like the way Craig and you found it and then full circle to Oh Death, but it hits you at the right time.
Right.
And like to hear your stories fairly similar with loss and life and going through all these things. How have these moments shaped you? Like how's loss shaped your music, shaped your faith? How has, being sober since 2016, like how has some of these things impacted you in a way that's helping you write the way you do and live the way you do?
You want to go or me go?
No, either. Well, I'll say that, we've said for a long time that we don't have to know you personally to know that we all understand. The one thing we have in common is we understand what hurt and what pain is. Yeah. And so I was, I kind of grew up in the church and just had a pastor that one day told me when he saw me singing by myself in an empty sanctuary, because I loved the way it echoed. And he was watching me and I got embarrassed when he saw me, and he said, man, he goes, if you can figure that out, how to, to peel open your chest and let people see your heart, they'll follow you anywhere. And I've always held on to that, just to be as transparent and honest as possible. Sadly, that a lot of times is connected with hurt and pain that we go through. Not all the time, but it definitely does. And it's just, for me, it's like, it's this weird way of making sure that it doesn't, all of this hurt and loss doesn't go in vain, is not to write a radio hit, but to hopefully connect with somebody else. Because if I'm hurting, somebody else is definitely hurting.
Yeah.
And typically I write the song for myself selfishly. And then when it does connect, it's like, okay, that's a huge bonus, because it was just to get me through originally, and never had the plan past that. But when it does connect with somebody, it's this weird, amazing feeling of knowing, oh yeah, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of us will face death one day. How do you guys want to be remembered?
I would like to look like him in that black shirt than this. So if you guys could remember, if y'all could help me out, that'd be good.
We can AI something.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you. Just film from here.
That's awesome. I mean, golly, I hope my life is just defined. I dealt with this question a lot. You know, when my dad died, he was a real estate agent, and a mortgage company who worked with him a lot gave us a gift. And I don't think they know how much this gift impacted me, but they gave me a cup with a picture of his car, the Prius that I drive, at his office by itself. And I know they meant to say as in your dad worked really hard, but I just was like, he was so much more than this. This is sadly all you knew of him, was that he was a great worker and would do anything to create more business or whatever. And so, I mean, I would hope, I just want to be remembered of it. Honest to God, just I hope my kids are like, that dude ran after Jesus. Like, he was crazy, insane, and he was like kind of inappropriate, but he ran for the cross as fast as, you know, he just, yeah, he needed forgiveness, and hopefully I gave it and asked for it from them, you know, but that's really it, you know, hopefully they're like, dude, he was looking up, you know, at Christ.
A friend of mine had a retirement thing, and he was kind of, I don't know if he was asked or if he brought up himself, like what he wanted his legacy to be. And he had this long speech, and then at the end he said, I just hope my kids brag about me. And I loved it so much, and not about like, because they're not going to brag about his accolades or that he wrote, you know, that I wrote hit songs or whatever, but it's like, man, if the ones that see every part of you and still brag about you, you're kind of nailing it. And and I don't know if it's the older we get, you talk about like connected with hurt, everybody hurts. I think with men especially, and dads, it's like the older we get, the more isolated we become and the fewer friends we have. I don't know why that is. And where we end up having to deal with a lot of these things alone. And it's, I mean, I don't know about most women. My wife she's got an army around her, but most dudes I know, they just get more alone the older they get. And it's heartbreaking. And I'm in that category too. And it's like, man, and a lot of times it's like, I just want to be with my family, which is a good thing. But it's like, they're going to see the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And when it's all said and done, I just hope if my kids speak well of me, then I've done something right.